Hey, beautiful good afternoon to you from yours truly, Mr. Panuka, from right here at Panuka Farm. It's been a while, I think almost 2 weeks since I think we last posted a video here on our YouTube channel. Yours truly, Mr. Panuka, has actually been quite busy, had to also travel out of the country, yeah, but I'm here. And I hope you are doing very well wherever you're watching us from. And just in case this is your first time, watching, me and us here on this channel. We are based in Lusaka, Zambia, in southern, Africa. So you're welcome on this channel. And what we do on this channel basically is to share, farming, tidbits. Various crops, and also on the livestock end we've got some poultry. So yeah, that's stuff that we actually do right here on this channel. So what are we talking about today? In crop production, there's what is called a growing calendar, which is basically a calendar that helps you to know what crops do well at what point of the year, and that is very, very critical based on the seasons, because some of the crops do not respond very well in certain times of the year. And I think I must actually indicate that one of the biggest mistakes people make is basically to just go on Google, find any growing calendar that is nearest to them, whatever Google brings out, and then you run with that. But I think the biggest caution and takeaway from this video, even from the onset, is that most of these growing calendars are actually quite specific to different areas, given that the weather patterns actually do differ across countries. And sometimes even within a specific country, you've got different growing calendars. So it's very important for you to appreciate what growing calendar actually applies to wherever you are. So here in Zambia, we've got Zambia is actually mapped into 3 agroecological regions, and so it's very important that you actually appreciate which agroecological region that applies to your farming area, so that you know what you can grow in what period, to avoid some kind of wastage or even crop failure, because that's one of the biggest issues. Most of the crops do actually struggle when there's too much rain, when it's cold and stuff like that. Okay, so let me just walk you through our open field farming area here, so that you see how different crops are actually responding to the cold, because we're actually in the cold season, though today is actually blazing hot, which is nice. Loving this, but it's been pretty cold, I think, in the last weeks. So let's just take a walk, just quickly show a couple of crops that we've got around here, and see how they're responding, so that you also appreciate how that then transcends to the topic of the day, which is the application of a growing calendar. So let's dive in. So what we have here is iceberg lettuce, and despite the cold, it's actually responding very well. And it's quite deliberate today why we are only covering open field crops, given that not everybody has the capacity to buy greenhouses. I think down here in Zambia, you've got greenhouse costs in the range of $15 to about $20 per square meter. So that's quite expensive. And I think world over, greenhouses are still quite expensive, but of course in other jurisdictions I think the costs are actually quite low. So it's quite deliberate why we're actually doing open field comparison, so that you actually see say which crops can actually survive in whatever environment. So yeah, here we are. This is iceberg lettuce, doing extremely very well despite the cold. So again, this is just evidence that this is one crop that actually can survive the cold. So this is I think within the brassica family, generally, the brassicas do very well during, cold season. Despite that, today I think we've got some pretty good, sun, but it's been quite cold here, in Zambia. So yeah, but we've got some, iceberg lettuce, obviously in shade nets. But you can actually see that you've got no excuse why you'd not, produce, iceberg lettuce in open field. Given that here it's actually proved that it's doing, pretty well. And very nice, decent, head sizes, quite crisp. Yeah, loving what we're seeing here. So in this section we have actually a younger, iceberg, lettuce. You can actually see even the seedlings are holding up, doing very well despite the cold. So we have more, iceberg, lettuce here. Obviously by now you know that with us, it's all about, production scheduling, so that we're in production, all the time. So we have to have, different stages of the same, crop. That's the more reason you actually see that we've got different, stages of the same, crop. So here we've got some sweet corn. I think from this end it looks lovely, but knowing how we grow the sweet corn, we have actually seen that the sweet corn does, have a bit of issues. Actually, not a bit, but quite some serious issues with the cold. So the growth pattern has kind of been, affected. You'll actually be able to see pretty soon. So with sweet corn, actually, we've now actually stopped, planting the new ones until, the temperatures warms up around August. And that depends in your area when the temperatures kind of warm up. But I think over the years that we've actually been doing sweet corn, not very good friends with, the cold. So this is somewhat of a stunted, growth, pattern, much as it probably looks, good on the eye. But I think experience has taught us that, yeah, this has issues with, the cold. So in this other portion of, sweet corn that we have, I think all around here, this field has actually struggled with the cold. It's much younger, compared to the one that we just looked at. And pretty much we're actually seeing, elements of armyworms also really, ravaging despite the cold. And that's something that we're actually seeing, I think, all around, I think, in this field, pretty much serious, struggling with the armyworms. So this is how, the armyworms do manifest themselves in sweet corn. We've actually seen this has actually increased this time around. And we've pretty much lost quite a bit, of the sweet corn. You can actually see the gaps for this younger crop that came when the cold had already, hit quite badly. So yeah, sweet corn really does, struggle. And I think even just the normal corn with the, cold season, that will be a huge struggle. So you can actually see now here, seeing even some of these, armyworms in action, ravaging, this, sweet corn, crop. So yeah, quite menacing, these little, worms. And so again, seeing quite some serious, struggle of this, sweet corn crop, because it was actually growing at a point when the cold had actually hit quite badly. So this batch of sweet corn, much as it's tasseling now, and we have some decent cobs coming up, but we also saw that the growth pattern is greatly affected. But I think we'll be able to harvest something decent from here, given that this crop grew at a point when it was still relatively warmer. The tasseling started much earlier. So I think that's how, we will at least, get something, decent from this, batch. So with this other, batch, the crop is actually ready. So we are actually harvesting, this week. So yeah, That's good. This is on our schedule for supply this week. So with this one, at least it survived the cold, given that we planted much area. So yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, so this section I think kind of survived the cold, and then that one we are actually harvesting this week. But the ones that I just showed you there are the ones that we planted a bit late, and then they were actually caught up with the cold front. So again, huge lesson, but again that just also tells you the response of sweet corn to the cold. So let me just show you some other options that you can actually look at during the cold season, and how we kind of have responded to this sweet corn situation. So much as sweet corn is one of our core crops, but again in farming you need to be malleable and ductile, and learn the dictates of this crop calendar. So we actually know that sweet corn does not do very well. So what we have here is quite some massive field of cabbage. We just recently transplanted, and they're pretty much doing very well. Let's just have a close-up a view. So pretty young seedlings here that we just recently transplanted, and this whole field is flooded with cabbage, because brassicas by their nature are very good with the cold. So we kind of have a temporal gap measure for the sweet corn, since we'll be out of production for sweet corn. But then yeah, we've got to make money, stay busy. So all this that you actually see here is cabbage. I think this batch is about 10,000 plants. So again, those are some of the options when you understand what the planting calendar kind of dictates, and the different limitations. What your options are, so that you don't stick to your guns and fail to progress, just in case one of your core crops is caught up with some of the weather patterns. So yeah, obviously we don't grow like a gazillion of crops here, but I hope I think the few that I've actually been able to show you gives you a glimpse, or kind of appreciate I think the concept that I'm actually trying to communicate here, that different crops do respond different to different weather patterns, the cold, the heat, and obviously the rain, and so I think it's very important for you to actually pay particular attention to your growing calendar that is relevant to your area. Otherwise you find yourself googling a planting calendar for Mars or Pluto. So yeah, pretty much make sure that you understand what really applies to your area, because one of the things that we've actually figured out is that some of the diseases like what I just showed you, I think in sweet corn, do come because you probably actually forcing matters. That crop just has these problems, inherent problems for a given weather pattern. So don't force matters, otherwise you have untold problems, because you've actually planted something at the wrong time. We know that previously we planted that was okra. That's another crop that usually has issues with the cold. Sometimes if you actually plant using seed, you have issues in terms of germination. So yeah, so those are some of the few insights that should guide you in your production, so that you maximize the production within a weather pattern that would actually really push up your productivity. So all right folks, this was meant to be a quick tutorial. I hope you appreciate I think the tidbits that we've actually shared today in relation to the growing calendar. So yeah, have a lovely one, and I'll see you in the next episode, hopefully pretty soon. Yeah, otherwise love you, and we hope you can actually also find time to smash that subscribe button, so that we can grow, this network. And yeah, make sure that, we have a larger community that could actually appreciate what we're trying, to bring out on this YouTube channel. So from yours truly, Mr. Panuka, right here at Panuka Farm in Lusaka, Zambia. Have a lovely one, wherever you're watching this video from. And see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.